The biggest threat to your startup might not be competition or the market, it might be you. This was a painful lesson I learned after my first startup's roller coaster journey. Founders focus on product, market, and code, but there's an overlooked factor that can make or break a company, the founder's own psychology, and I want to help you avoid learning this the hard way. We rarely talk about how what's inside the founder can sabotage or supercharge a startup. Everyone obsesses over strategy and product, but neglects the psyche of the founder. After years of building companies and now funding them, I discovered a powerful idea from psychology that explains why. It's a concept from Carl Jung's work called the shadow. By the end of this video, you'll see how understanding your inner self can be as critical as understanding your business model. Let's get started. Psychologist Carl Jung coined the term the shadow to describe the parts of ourselves we reject or hide, the person you don't want to be. These are our darker traits, our flaws, or weaknesses that we shove out of sight. When you get irrationally angry at someone or judge them harshly, often it's your own hidden traits you're seeing. That's your shadow at work, projected onto others. But Jung's ideas didn't stop at the negative. There's also a positive side hidden in that darkness. This is what therapist William A. Miller called the golden shadow, your undeveloped self, the hidden positive qualities and talents that you haven't owned or expressed yet. Not the bad stuff, but the good stuff you buried in your psyche, glowing, valuable traits you've pushed down or not recognized. How do you know your golden shadow? One clue is in who you idolize or envy. We tend to project our unrealized strengths onto other people. Have you ever admired a visionary founder or brilliant coder and thought, they're incredible, I can never do that? That almost painful awe you might feel actually might be your own potential reflected back at you. For founders, this is huge. The qualities you most admire in your heroes might exactly be what you need to unlock in yourself. Maybe you're in awe of a founder's boldness or a designer's creativity. Chances are those same qualities exist in you in some form, waiting to be developed. Your company will only benefit when you start tapping into that hidden potential. On the flip side, if you ignore your golden shadow, it doesn't sit quietly. It might turn into frustration or imposter syndrome. You might constantly feel, I'm not as good as that person, or defer big visionary thinking to others because you secretly doubt yourself. Over time, that unclaimed potential can poison your confidence and decisions. I've seen founders get stuck or make bad calls because they were living in someone else's shadow instead of owning their own potential strengths. So why do we bury these positive traits in the first place? Often it's fear of disappointment, fear of standing out, or early life messages like stay in your lane or don't be arrogant. Sometimes our upbringing or society trains us to dampen what makes us special. So those talents go underground, but they're still there, waiting. And the first step to growth is to bring them to light. I had to learn about the golden shadow the hard way. This concept became very real for me during the rise and fall of my first startup, Posterous, and it almost cost me everything. Let me share how my own hidden traits, both dark and golden, ended up steering that company's fate. I grew up as the child of Chinese immigrants in a turbulent home. Early on, I learned to bury a lot of feelings and try to be normal and likable. By the time I co-founded my startup in my 20s, I thought I had left that baggage behind. I threw myself into coding and building the product, assuming my childhood traumas and quirks had nothing to do with running a company. In the early days of Posterous, I focused on the external stuff, features, users, funding, and what I didn't realize was that my inner struggles were silently sabotaging things. I hated conflict. Instead of addressing problems with my co-founder or my team head-on, I'd avoid them and hope they'd fix themselves. I was the easygoing guy, or so I thought. In reality, I was bottling things up. When you avoid conflict too long, it explodes. One day I learned that a team member told my co-founder I was the worst manager he'd ever had. It hit me with a ton of bricks. I was stunned and hurt. I thought I'd been a friendly, laid-back boss. In truth, I was so conflict averse, I let issues simmer until I'd blow up in frustration. I hadn't seen this pattern until it was too late. That lack of clarity was a symptom. My fear of conflict and my hidden self-doubt kept us from making the hard calls. Eventually, Posterous hit a wall. We did get acquired by Twitter, but essentially a talent acquisition, and about a year later they shut the product down. And in the end, Posterous never became the world-changing platform we all dreamed it could be. In the aftermath, I had to face a hard truth. It wasn't just market forces or competition that sank us. I had a hand in it. I remember after I burned out and had left the startup, thinking about all the times I held back, the times I avoided a tough conversation or second-guessed a bold idea. I felt a deep sense of regret. I realized I'd been living in the shadow of what I could have been as a leader, and that was my wake-up call. I knew I had to fix the root issues inside me. I started digging into my own psyche. I even took a test for childhood trauma and scored alarmingly high. You can do this yourself. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Test, or ACE for short. It explained a lot about why I handled stress and conflict the way I did. So when that came back, I realized I needed to do something that a lot of founders neglect. I went to get help. I got a therapist and even an executive coach to help me understand what the heck was going on with me, to shine a light on the stuff I hadn't dealt with. Therapy and self-reflection were huge game changers for me, and it took many years. I realized in my family system, when I was growing up, my childhood was one where you only had two options: fight or self-abandon. Yet clearly there were leaders in the world who I aspired to and was even envious of. In particular, at Posterous, I gave the chance to be CEO to my co-founder, and what I now realize is that being the boots on the ground commander was what was in my shadow. I thought, I don't need power, I don't need the credit, but being CEO is not about credit. It's about being able to fix it if it's broken. I realized I do have a strong product intuition and the ability to rally people around an idea, and listen and compose all those good ideas around the table and drive a vision forward. I wasn't just the tech guy who had to defer to visionary CEOs. I could be the visionary CEO myself. By the time I co-founded my next venture and became an investor, I was a different kind of leader, more self-aware and more willing to both own my weaknesses and my strengths. I could feel the difference, and people around me could too. My companies ran better, and I was happier. Your startup will do only as well and will only progress as much as you, the founder, progresses. Always remember that. So, how can you as a founder start using your golden shadow instead of being used by it? Where do you begin? It might feel abstract, but here's some practical steps to make it real. A few concrete moves that help me and many others. Step 1 is identify your golden shadow. Pay attention to who you admire and even envy. Write down the names of founders or leaders you really look up to and list the qualities in them that strike you. Is it their fearless public speaking, their creativity, their decisiveness? That list of qualities is a mirror. Ask yourself, are these qualities actually latent in me? Chances are they are, and that's why you're drawn to them. Step 2 is to own those traits and the fears around them. Once you find a quality you admire in someone else, recognize that a seed of it exists in you. And that can be uncomfortable because it means facing fears or doubts, keeping that trait hidden. Maybe you were told you're not a leader or not creative, so you avoided stepping up. Challenge those assumptions. It can help to talk with a mentor or coach to get perspective. Ultimately, give yourself permission to embody those strengths. Step 3 is practice in small steps. You won't transform overnight, and that's fine. Start with micro experiments. If you admire bold communicators, push yourself to speak up more in team meetings this week. If it's creativity you've been holding back, set aside an hour to brainstorm wild ideas with no filter. These small acts are like workouts for your hidden talents. Each rep makes you stronger and more comfortable in that new skin. Step 4 is integrate and iterate. As you practice, bring those reclaimed strengths into your daily startup life. Have you discovered a particular new vision for where you want to take the company? Lead your team with that vision front and center. Found new confidence in decision making? Use it in your next product meeting. Convince everyone in that room that you're right. And keep getting feedback along the way. Ask your team or mentors how you're doing. Remember, personal growth, like personal development, it's iterative and you keep refining. The core message is this: your startup's trajectory is tightly linked to your own growth as a founder. You can have the best tech and the smartest team, but if you're unconsciously holding yourself back, it's like driving with the parking brake on. The inner work isn't touchy-feely indulgence, it's a strategic investment in the most critical asset your startup has: you. So imagine what's possible if you fully embrace your golden shadow. Picture yourself leading your startup with all those qualities you once only saw in others. What kind of product could you build if you unlocked that extra creativity or boldness? What kind of culture could you foster if you showed up as the best version of you? The companies that change the world are often led by people who have done this work, people unafraid to bring their whole selves to the table. This is your invitation to do the same. Don't wait for a meltdown like I had to realize it. Start now. Take a hard look at the traits you've been avoiding or admiring from afar and dare to claim them. The next time you catch yourself thinking, I could never be like that, pause and reconsider. Maybe you can and maybe you must. In the end, the golden shadow is just a poetic way to say that within you lies untapped potential. It's the hero of your story that you haven't fully met yet. If you do inner work, you will meet them. And when you do, you'll not only become a better founder, you'll build a better company. And that's the real golden opportunity. And I can already tell it's ready for you.